Gene Hackman, a Hollywood legend, vanished into the quiet abyss of death. No final words, no suspects, no crime scene. Just a mystery swallowed by the desert. His wife, Betsy Arakawa, the only keeper of his secrets, followed him soon after. Coincidence or conspiracy? Every trace of Hackman's legacy, his whispers, his footsteps, has been erased, buried beneath rumors, unseen poisons, and the silent puppeteers of Hollywood's darkest corridors. Was it fate, or the work of unseen hands pulling strings behind the golden curtain? As the New Mexico desert holds its secrets, the truth seeps away like blood in the sand. Gene Hackman's death wasn't just the end of a life. It was the beginning of Hollywood's darkest, most whispered legend. In the heart of the New Mexico desert lay Los Terros, a forgotten village, a haven for those who sought to disappear. For Hackman, a two-time Oscar winner, this was more than just a retreat. It was his final refuge, a world far removed from the suffocating glare of Hollywood's relentless gaze. Alongside his wife, Betsy Arakawa, he built a sanctuary where no cameras followed, no reporters pried. But even in isolation, the past has a way of catching up. And in the silence of the desert, secrets festered, waiting for the right moment to resurface. Tell us, what was the first Gene Hackman movie that caught your attention? If you're intrigued by the mystery surrounding his life and legacy, hit like, share, and drop a comment with your thoughts. Now, let's uncover the untold stories of the legendary Gene Hackman. By the 2010s, Gene Hackman had vanished from the public eye. No interviews, no new projects, just a quiet life with Betsy, the woman who had been his unwavering companion since their marriage. Their two-story wooden house stood alone, gazing over the vast, empty grasslands, a fortress not of walls or cameras, but of silence, shielding them from the world they had left behind. The only thing separating them from the outside world was an unbreakable silence, so deep it smothered every rumor before it could take shape. In Los Terros, Gene Hackman was more myth than man. Locals rarely saw him, and when they did, it was fleeting. A polite nod at the store before he disappeared once more. Betsy was no different. They moved like ghosts in their own world, gliding past each other in quiet understanding, their lives woven together in whispers and shadows. But that peaceful solitude turned into an eerie void when authorities discovered both Gene Hackman and Betsy Arakawa, lifeless in the very home that had shielded them from the world. No broken locks, no shattered windows, no struggle, just an undisturbed silence. Hackman sat in his usual wooden chair by the living room window, book in hand, as if frozen in time. Betsy lay nearby, her head resting gently on the armrest, their small dog curled at their feet, unmoving. It was as if they had simply drifted into an endless sleep. No strange scents lingered in the air. No furniture was out of place. Only an unnatural stillness, as if the house itself had stopped breathing at the exact moment they did. What unsettled investigators most was the haunting stillness of it all. No struggle, no forced entry, no disruption. Just Gene, Betsy, and their small dog, frozen in the quiet life they had embraced. The Santa Fe police were baffled, calling it an enigma beyond explanation. Initial suspicions of a break-in or accident faded quickly. No wounds, no toxins, no external cause, just an eerie, undisturbed farewell. It was as if the silence of Los Terros had simply claimed them, whisking them away without a trace, without a sound. But this silence had never felt so ominous. Beneath its perfect stillness lay a mystery begging to be uncovered. As whispers spread through Santa Fe, the quiet town of Los Terros could no longer keep its secrets. Then came Rios, the forgotten outcast, the man who had once faded into silence, now speaking up. The news of Gene Hackman and Betsy Arakawa's deaths didn't stay buried in the desert for long. It slipped past the dry, sun-baked lands of Los Terros, reaching far beyond Santa Fe, carrying with it a chilling question. Was their passing truly peaceful, or had something unseen been lurking in the shadows all along? The first murmurs swept across the desert, carried by the wind into roadside cafes, dusty newsstands, and bustling weekend markets where gossip thrived. But this time it wasn't just another passing tale. It was Gene Hackman's name on everyone's lips. A legend who had once commanded Hollywood's brightest spotlight was now the center of a mystery that no one could explain. No one could pinpoint where the first whispers began. Maybe a coroner slipping a word too many, or a neighbor catching a glimpse of flashing police lights through a curtain. But once spoken, the rumors spread like wildfire, carried by the unyielding desert wind. In the vast, barren expanse of New Mexico, speculation took shape, distilling into three unsettling theories: murder, a break-in gone wrong, or a silent, undetected gas leak. For those who had spent years in Santa Fe or Los Terros, the idea of the desert swallowing lives without a trace was nothing new. Since the 1970s, New Mexico had been a land of unexplained vanishings. Abandoned homes left mid-meal, bodies discovered without a mark yet frozen in terror. The desert carried secrets, ones people preferred to forget. So when Gene Hackman's name became part of that legacy, the whispers took a darker turn. What if his death wasn't just an end, but another chapter in the desert's long, eerie history? As the media frenzy grew, whispers of murder took hold. It started with a lone blog post, but soon headlines from TMZ to the New York Times echoed the same chilling question. Had Gene Hackman been killed in his own home? At over 90 years old, no one expected the legendary actor to become the center of a mystery gripping the nation. Santa Fe had seen reporters before, but this time their presence felt different. Gone were the usual travel pieces and restaurant reviews. Now, the air was thick with intrigue. The headlines told a haunting story. Gene Hackman, Betsy Arakawa, and their loyal dog. 3 lives lost in a home untouched by violence, without a single sign of struggle. The Santa Fe police were forced to hold their first press conference later that afternoon, amidst the continuous flashes of cameras. The police spokesperson stood behind the wooden podium, his voice calm but firm. No signs of forced entry, no obvious injuries, no external trauma. The brief statement cut through all the theories like a knife, but it was that very decisiveness that made people more suspicious. If no one had broken in, then how could it be that no one harmed them? Gene and Betsy, 2 healthy individuals living peacefully in that quiet space, suddenly died by accident. Rumors spread. Some spoke of an invisible intruder, one who silently infiltrates homes in the desert without leaving a trace. Others mentioned ancient curses tied to the land of Los Terros, once a focal point for rituals that no one dared name. Then, the theory of a gas leak quietly killing each person in silence became the most plausible explanation so far, regardless of which theory was believed. No one can deny that Gene Hackman and Betsy Arakawa, two people who spent their lives avoiding the noise and rumors of society, inadvertently became the center of an unstoppable storm of gossip in the endless desert of New Mexico. The whispers continue to echo as if someone or something has never truly left. As the initial theories of a break-in or murder faded, the most plausible explanation that was mentioned was poisoning, specifically carbon monoxide. The invisible killer had taken the lives of many residents in remote areas, much like Los Terros. It was the explanation everyone nodded to before a silent leak invaded every room, drowning Gene Hackman, Betsy Arakawa, and their small dog in eternal sleep, with no cries for help, no signs of struggle or panic. The Santa Fe Police Department's investigation team and environmental experts were urgently called in. The most advanced gas detection equipment was brought into Gene Hackman's small wooden house, scanning every corner, from the heating system and gas stove to the hot water pipes. They inspected everything carefully. Backup generators are a common cause of carbon monoxide poisoning in remote rural areas, but strangely, everything appeared nearly perfect. The gas stove, the main suspect, had only a tiny leak in the gas supply pipe connection. However, the amount of gas released was insignificant. Certainly not enough to pose a danger or accumulate in the open space of Hackman's cozy kitchen. The heating system was also thoroughly checked. Every pipe was inspected with thermal cameras to detect any cracks that might allow toxic gas into the house. The results showed nothing unusual. All equipment adhered to installation standards and regular inspections. Minor faults in the hot water pipe and gas connections were entirely unrelated to the risk of carbon monoxide. The real shock came late in the afternoon when the preliminary autopsy report was sent to the chief investigator's office. No traces of carbon monoxide were found in the bodies of Gene Hackman or Betsy Arakawa. Blood samples, lung fluids, brain tissue, everything was clean, with no signs of gas poisoning. The most reliable theory, the explanation everyone had clung to, suddenly collapsed. That very evening, a press release from the New Mexico authorities was issued, stating that no carbon monoxide was detected and no environmental toxins were found at levels dangerous to human health. This news sparked the simmering speculations on social media. If it wasn't gas, then what really happened inside that small house in the desert? New theories quickly emerged. Could they have been poisoned by another, more potent toxin? One so sophisticated it bypassed standard tests? Or was it a slow process? A poison slowly absorbed through food or drink, causing both of them to disappear at once, like a curse that had been destined. Some even mentioned biological or chemical agents used in high-level assassinations, capable of self-destruction. After completing their task, they leave the scene clean, like a blank sheet of paper. From Los Terros, where the sunset paints the distant Rocky Mountains, people read conspiracy theory blogs, constantly asking, if it wasn't carbon monoxide, then what was it? And that question became like a new curse haunting the public. In the following days, as more theories grew increasingly bizarre and the truth remained buried somewhere in the silent desert winds. Gene Hackman is a name that needs no introduction. He was not just an actor, but a living legend, a symbol of Hollywood's artistic richness, where true talent could surpass flashy gimmicks. From The French Connection to Unforgiven, each of Hackman's roles is etched into the public consciousness. But behind the glamour of his Oscar-winning career lies a web of heavy secrets that few dare to touch. In the 70s and 80s, as Hackman ruled Hollywood, he also saw its hidden underbelly, untouched by the media. This was an era of covert parties, shady deals, and untold truths. Whispers swirled that Hackman, with his sharp mind and watchful eye, caught every secret. He knew all about bribery, backstage favors, and even unexplained disappearances that stayed buried in the shadows. When news of Hackman and Betsy Arakawa's sudden departure hit the headlines, former colleagues were asked to share their thoughts. But instead of offering condolences or fond memories, most fell silent. Even those who had worked alongside Hackman on legendary projects, directors who once praised him as a golden partner, all refused to comment on the situation. The collective silence sent a shiver through the public, sparking a new theory. Hackman hadn't just escaped Hollywood's glare by retreating to New Mexico. Perhaps the secrets he carried had become too heavy, driving him to flee before the past caught up with him. Some conspiracy sites even hinted at the Hollywood curse, a hidden roster of stars who knew too much and met untimely, mysterious ends. Hackman, having seen it all, might have been the latest casualty of that curse, as the secrets of the past stayed unresolved and hidden forces quietly persisted. His departure became a mysterious bridge between Hollywood's glittering facade and its dark underworld, where the truth always hid behind the velvet curtain of the film capital. If Gene Hackman represented both the brilliance and darkness of Hollywood, Betsy Arakawa was his complete opposite. After becoming his partner, Betsy chose to step away from the spotlight, living quietly in the background like a shadow. Yet the more she withdrew, the more enigmatic that shadow became. Once a talented piano artist, Betsy nearly vanished from the public eye after marrying Hackman. Old friends remembered her as a gentle, reserved woman, always smiling softly when speaking of her legendary husband. But beneath those smiles lay a subtle unease, one that only a few close friends truly understood. Months before their discovery, Betsy confided in an old friend over the phone, saying she felt someone was watching her. Strange noises at night, cryptic messages from unknown senders, and an overwhelming, unprovable anxiety haunted her every day. When advised to contact the police, Betsy simply smiled weakly and said, "I'm just being silly. If you're surprised by the unsolved story of Gene Hackman, leave a comment with the number 1. If not, leave a comment with the number 0. Now let's dive back into this mysterious tale. Even stranger, just hours after the news broke, an anonymous call was made to the Santa Fe Police Department. A soft, trembling, middle-aged woman's voice revealed only one detail. Betsy wrote a letter to a friend in California. It was her final confession, yet that letter was never found. From there, speculation grew. Some suggested Betsy had been involved in a complex financial relationship before marrying Hackman, one she had worked to conceal for decades. Others whispered of a secret connection with powerful figures, possibly the true cause of her irrational fear. Betsy Arakawa, the woman behind Gene Hackman's spotlight, might hold the final key to unlocking all the mysteries. But now she has slipped into silence, taking her secrets with her into the New Mexico desert, where every confession is buried beneath the sands of time. On the day Gene Hackman and Betsy Arakawa's bodies were discovered, the New Mexico desert seemed to hold its breath. Not because of the scorching heat or the sandstorms sweeping across the trails, but due to an unexplainable tension that hung in the air. A legend had died here, but what he left behind wasn't just a legacy of glory, it was a mystery as vast as the desert's endless horizon. When the initial forensic reports came in, the case grew even more perplexing. No signs of external force, no visible injuries, and no evidence of a break-in at Hackman's home. Carbon monoxide and other toxins were ruled out. Every clue that seemed to hint at the truth vanished like a mirage in the desert. After weeks of investigation, the Santa Fe police had to admit they couldn't pinpoint a cause for Gene Hackman and his wife's deaths. The case remained unsolved, with law enforcement seemingly acknowledging that some mysteries are beyond the reach of science or logic. The Hackman family chose silence, refusing all interview requests and rejecting any offers for press cooperation. Those who had been close to Gene, from former colleagues to New Mexico neighbors, also kept quiet. Hollywood, which had once hailed him as a living legend, now seemed to intentionally exclude Hackman's name from memorial broadcasts. His death had become a strange, unspoken taboo. In the wake of the silence, social media exploded with bizarre and growing conspiracy theories. Some claimed Gene and Betsy were victims of a perfectly orchestrated assassination or a flawlessly staged suicide. Others speculated they had been slowly poisoned over months with a deadly chemical designed to destroy. As the theories deepened, some forums even suggested a connection to secret organizations that had secretly controlled Hollywood for decades. These forces, they claimed, believed Hackman had unknowingly or deliberately uncovered fragments of Betsy's hidden fears, the strange anonymous calls, and the unsettling silence of those close to him. All these pieces seemed to intertwine, creating a haunting, though incomplete, picture. Gene Hackman's death wasn't merely the end of a star, but the birth of a dark new legend. An unsolved mystery where the brilliance of Hollywood faded into the dust of New Mexico. In its wake, millions of questions lingered in the desert sky, holding its breath, waiting for answers. No one can pinpoint the exact moment Gene Hackman's house became a part of the mysterious legend of Los Terros. But since the day he and Betsy Arakawa's bodies were found, the place was consumed by an eerie silence. It wasn't just the absence of people, but a feeling as if the very space was holding its breath, waiting for something too grand, too terrifying, and then never receiving an answer. Neighbors scattered across the harsh desert began whispering about what they had seen in the days leading up to the discovery. An elderly couple living nearly a mile from the Hackman home claimed to have seen strange blue lights flickering through the second-floor window. At first, they assumed it was just car headlights from the back trail, but the light didn't move or change. It remained still, as if casting light on a silent ritual that lasted nearly 10 minutes before abruptly vanishing. A horse rancher, who sometimes delivered hay to the Hackman home, remembered seeing Betsy a few days before the police arrived. She stood on the porch, staring blankly at the distant desert, with an unsettlingly vacant expression. She didn't wave or respond to his greeting. She just stood there, as if listening to a sound that no one else could hear. After their initial statements, the Santa Fe police quietly withdrew from the case. No updates were given, no press releases issued. Once the case was temporarily closed, the silence grew even more unsettling. The Hackman family refused all contact, and those close to Gene throughout his life suddenly went silent, as if an invisible warning had been issued. On online forums, from Reddit to conspiracy blogs, Gene Hackman and Betsy Arakawa were no longer just the reclusive couple of Los Terros. They had become symbols of a darker side of Hollywood, where the stage lights never shine. Theories about the cost of knowing too many secrets were buried deep, waiting to be uncovered. Hackman's life, now shrouded in a fog of mystery, leaves behind his roles, Oscar statues, and past awards as little more than a thin mask concealing a deeper secret. His house still stands, uninhabited. No one dares sell, rent, or destroy it, as if it's become part of the legend itself. Every night, when the desert wind howls through the empty windows, whispers of untold secrets echo from somewhere far away. And though Gene Hackman has left this life, his story of standing too close to the truth will continue to haunt New Mexico. The darkness beneath the veneer of silence and the dry official statements from the Santa Fe police left broken pieces that would never fit together. A mysterious call at 2:37 a.m., about 48 hours before Hackman and Betsy's bodies were found, added to the enigma. The emergency hotline received an interrupted call from Hackman's landline. A woman's voice whispered just 5 words. "They found out too late." The call abruptly ended. The police later confirmed that Betsy had made the call, but they couldn't explain why it was cut short or who she was speaking to. In the statement, the empty safe in Hackman's office was noted. It was a large safe that had never appeared in any previous asset inventories. The door was wide open, and inside, it was completely empty. No one knew what Hackman had kept in there, and there were no signs of a break-in. Down in the basement, a handwritten manuscript with scattered pages was found, a place Hackman rarely visited. The manuscript contained fragmented memories of Hollywood in the 70s and 80s, mentioning shady names, a club, desert meetings, and a red folder. It seemed Hackman had written this secret memoir for himself, or perhaps for someone brave enough to read it. The manuscript abruptly ended with the chilling line, "If they find out, no one will survive." The death of Gene Hackman and Betsy Arakawa didn't just mark the end of 2 lives. It opened a new chapter in Hollywood's dark legend. After the incident, many conspiracy forums speculated that Hackman had unknowingly become involved in a secret society of filmmakers, moguls, and politicians in the post-Watergate era. He had escaped, but carried with him secrets that would never be revealed, spreading fear. At least 3 of Hackman's longtime friends, including a director who had worked with him on Mississippi Burning, quietly left Los Angeles after the police closed the case. None of them agreed to be interviewed, even when offered 6-figure sums. The haunted house remains to this day. Visitors to Hackman's old neighborhood claim to hear whispers at dawn, voices, perhaps Betsy's or Hackman's, echoing from the desert. disjointed phrases that are hard to understand, but always repeating one chilling line: "It's not safe here." Gene Hackman's legacy isn't just his Oscar statues or iconic roles, but the shadow he casts over Hollywood, where the truth is buried beneath the sands of New Mexico, a place where not everyone who knows too much survives to tell the story. Gene Hackman passed away in silence, but the aftershocks of the incident spread like a sandstorm, engulfing Hollywood. Betsy Arakawa, the final witness, followed soon after, leaving behind a chilling message: those who know too much have no way out. It wasn't an accident, it wasn't a suicide. This was the price of the truth, where the stage lights never shine. Let us know what you think about the mysteries surrounding his life. Don't forget to hit like, share, and leave your thoughts in the comments below the video. See you in the next one. Welcome to the channel. Today we dive into a captivating and enigmatic tale surrounding Hollywood icon Gene Hackman. Despite his iconic roles and an unparalleled career, Gene Hackman's legacy goes beyond wealth and fame. Behind the fortune lies a family torn apart, broken trust, and long-hidden secrets. In today's video, we'll uncover the treasure Gene Hackman left behind and why it brought his family to tears. Stay tuned to reveal secrets about his life and legacy that have never been shared before. Gene Hackman didn't leave in peace. Instead, he left behind a fortune that could shake a family to its core. Over $80 million in cash, real estate, stocks, and hidden investments that no one dared to speak of. But behind those staggering figures lies a nightmare that's unraveling every family bond. Each dollar Hackman left didn't just buy mansions and priceless art. It bought dark secrets, late-night calls, and unsent desperate letters. That money became fear, betrayal, and shattered dreams. Gene Hackman didn't leave a legacy. He left a curse. Gene Hackman was once a timeless Hollywood icon, in a world where even the brightest stars are eventually forgotten, but even legends fade into the night. In his later years, Hackman chose a path far from the public's grand image of him. No farewell parties, no tearful goodbyes, no memoirs unveiling hidden truths. Gene Hackman quietly slipped away from Hollywood, vanishing without a trace. If you found Gene Hackman's story captivating and emotional, hit the like button and share this video with your friends. Drop a comment below to share your thoughts on the legacy he left behind and its impact on his family. Don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss out on more gripping stories and videos. New Mexico was no stranger to Gene Hackman. Since the 1980s, he had a home in Santa Fe, a secluded haven far from Hollywood's bright lights. The winding red dirt roads, dark pine forests, and howling winds at dusk set the perfect stage for a star to quietly close the final chapter of his life. Locals often whispered about the tall, elderly man with deep wrinkles, seen cycling around the hills every day. "He looked like someone I've seen before," a grocery store clerk once said, but no one could place him. Gene Hackman seemed to blend into the town, a quiet shadow among the elderly living out their final years in peace. Hollywood tried to pull him back with tempting offers from eager young directors and scripts tailored just for him, but nothing could penetrate the wall of silence he'd built around himself. "I've said everything I needed to say," he replied in a rare interview. At 90, Hackman no longer cared about fame or fortune. All he sought was peace, a luxury he had never known amid the chaos of movie sets. But that silence wasn't entirely by choice. Rumors began to swirl, and the darker aspects of Hackman's life slowly emerged through whispers from those closest to him. His health was deteriorating faster than anyone expected. Fleeting heart attacks, unnoticed falls as he rode his bike down the street. The Gene Hackman of his final years was a mere shadow of the legend he once was. Hackman's family, according to unnamed sources, wasn't as perfect as it seemed. He had 3 children from his first marriage to Faye Maltese, which lasted 30 years before ending in a bitter divorce. His daughter, Elizabeth Hackman, publicly spoke about her father's emotional distance. Fame consumed all the time he should have spent with the family. He was always working, always somewhere else. Despite providing full financial support, Hackman's relationship with his children was never truly healthy. Family dinners, teaching them to ride bikes, or reading bedtime stories were nothing but fantasies for his kids. The neglect that built up over the years created an irreparable distance. Even after Hackman remarried Betsy Arakawa, a pianist 30 years his junior, the tension with his children remained. Close sources revealed that his decision to live in seclusion wasn't just for rest. It was a way to escape the simmering conflicts within his family. Family gatherings became infrequent, phone calls grew brief, and even Christmas was no longer a time for reunion. Hackman never said it outright, but those close to him knew he feared the disappointment in his children's eyes. He tried to make amends with money, property, and lavish gifts sent from the West Coast to his children's cities. Yet, like the characters he once portrayed, money couldn't buy what mattered most: connection and forgiveness. The distance between them grew wider when Hackman fully retired from Hollywood in 2004 after his final role in Welcome to Mooseport. There were no goodbyes with colleagues, no farewell party from the studios that once saw him as their golden goose. Hackman disappeared like a passing wind, leaving only whispers of a solitary and stubborn legacy. Hackman's final years in Santa Fe were like a void, isolated from the world. He spent most of his time in a small wooden house, reading, writing, and sketching landscapes. Those fortunate enough to cross his path at the local grocery store or gas station described him as a thin man with deep, unmistakable eyes and a sharp gaze. It was said that Hackman enjoyed sitting alone on his porch, watching sunsets and sketching the distant mountains. These were likely the rare moments he felt truly free. No camera flashes, no false praise, no complicated relationships, just him, the wind, and his unspoken thoughts. Even more unsettling were the rumors about a secret personal fund Hackman established in the mid-90s. No one knew exactly how it operated, where the money came from, or its true purpose. Among the documents uncovered, a handwritten letter from Hackman to himself surfaced, resembling a financial journal. The letter read, "I built this not to leave behind wealth, but to leave behind control." This chilling statement haunted his children, revealing one undeniable truth. Gene Hackman never wanted his money to fall into anyone else's hands, not even his own family's. As rumors about Hackman's health spread, the Hollywood media began to search for the final pieces of his story. Some claimed Hackman had secretly written a will years ago, dividing his assets into hidden accounts to prevent any disputes. Others speculated he'd established an anonymous charity, quietly funneling most of his fortune as a form of atonement for abandoning his children. The less Hackman appeared, the more he became the subject of conspiracy theories and fabricated stories. Yet in his small house in Santa Fe, he peacefully spent his final days, leaving behind not only a legendary career but also mysteries that lingered long after his eyes closed. Gene Hackman wrote his own ending, leaving the world in a way no one could have predicted. The news of his passing came on a gray morning, before the sun had a chance to rise over the red peaks of New Mexico. It was quiet, without fanfare, much like his reclusive life in the last 2 decades. But when that brief notice appeared in a local newspaper, it sent ripples through both Hollywood and Hackman's own family, where secret doors that had been tightly shut for years suddenly swung open. Hackman's family had never fully grasped the extent of his wealth. With his image as a Hollywood legend, a 2-time Oscar winner who had walked the most prestigious red carpets, no one doubted he possessed a fortune. But just how vast that fortune was, where it was hidden, and how it had been concealed remained mysteries even to his closest relatives. Hackman's secrecy and reclusive nature weren't merely quirks, they were an art, one he mastered perfectly until his final breath. At first, his family thought everything would be simple. A handwritten will, notarized in 2001, was found, listing clear assets like the house in Santa Fe, a bank account in California, and a vintage Hudson Hornet Hackman had kept since his youth. The total value was estimated at under $5 million, a sum that seemed small compared to his fame and legendary career. But as they sifted through more old documents and uncovered seemingly anonymous bank accounts, a completely different story began to unfold. It turned out Gene Hackman's name wasn't confined to the world of cinema. Since the 1990s, at the height of his career, Hackman had been constructing a complex financial network tied to real estate, stocks, anonymous investment funds, and money quietly transferred overseas. Hackman wasn't just a brilliant actor, he was also a master at concealing assets within the financial world. The first person to uncover this clue was the family's lawyer, an elderly man who had worked with Hackman since the 1970s. Among the dusty papers found in a wooden chest in the Santa Fe storage, handwritten letters and internal memos detailing a series of secret transactions were discovered. Investments in emerging tech companies, land in Nevada's suburbs, solar funds in New Mexico, everything was registered under shell companies with no direct links to Hackman. But as they traced the transactions, each dollar led to one account. The original account Hackman set up in 1993, right after winning his second Oscar. The total value of the assets, after piecing together all the clues, was estimated to exceed $80 million, a sum that shocked even his closest friends. But what truly stunned his family wasn't the amount of money, but how Hackman had hidden it all these years. No one knew exactly how he did it, with whom or why he chose such secrecy. In some of the covert transactions, Hackman had used aliases through trust accounts set up in Switzerland, the Cayman Islands, and Singapore. The biggest question remains: why did Gene Hackman hide his assets from his own family? Was it a lack of trust, or are there deeper secrets yet to be uncovered? A theory began to spread, not from the press, but from within Hackman's own family. The children, raised in the emotional distance of their famous father, now realized they had never truly understood him. Hackman wasn't just emotionally distant, he was also detached when it came to finances, as if fearing that revealing even a fraction of his wealth would lead to endless disputes. So he built walls, impenetrable financial layers, ensuring that even his own children would never have access. The discovery of this secret fund immediately sparked covert investigations. Lawyers, financial experts, and even private detectives were hired to track it down, but all of them hit dead ends. Gene Hackman had prepared for this moment long ago. The ghost accounts, the layers of shell companies, the untraceable cash transactions. Every time the family made a step forward, Hackman seemed to be a decade ahead. When the family lawyer officially announced Hackman's estate, most of what was recorded was just the tip of the iceberg: the Santa Fe house, the vintage car, and a few bank accounts. The rest, the real assets, remained hidden in the shadows of financial secrecy known only to Hackman. And now, with his passing, that secret became an unsolvable puzzle for his closest relatives. In those frantic searches, the Hackman family came to a harsh realization. There were times they never truly belonged in Gene Hackman's life. He lived like a solitary legend, loving money in his own way, hiding it as part of his soul, and taking those secrets to the grave. That vast fortune, instead of becoming a family legacy, now stands as the wreckage of a man who chose to abandon everything, even his family, to protect one thing above all else: absolute control. The old wooden door of the Santa Fe house creaked as it opened. Faint yellow light spilled through the threshold, casting shadows over the dusty space, where the smell of rotting wood and old paper mingled with the lingering scent of a home long abandoned. The Hackman family stood in silence before the scene, a frozen world where time had stopped, leaving only shattered fragments of memories scattered across the gray wooden floor. They didn't cry immediately upon hearing of Hackman's death. This loss wasn't just the passing of a father, husband, or grandfather. It felt more like the aftershock of a silent earthquake that had been simmering for years, now erupting and sweeping everything away, from familial bonds and trust to long-buried secrets. That night, sitting around the old wooden table, Gene Hackman's children opened each wooden box and faded envelope they found in the attic corner. No one was prepared for what they were about to discover. Inside the envelopes weren't the will or financial instructions they had hoped for, but handwritten letters, Hackman's familiar shaky handwriting on pages never sent. The first letter, written in the winter of 1995 after Hackman finished filming Crimson Tide, was addressed to Christopher, his eldest son, whom Hackman hadn't spoken to directly in 15 years. It was brief, just a few lines. "I know I was never the father you wanted, but you must understand. I never belonged to anyone, not even my own family." Those words cut into Christopher's heart like a cold knife. He wasn't surprised to read them, but the pain of seeing them on a yellowed piece of paper, instead of hearing them directly from his father, left him breathless. The following letters were filled with memories and regrets. One was addressed to Elizabeth, his youngest daughter, recalling nights spent alone in the living room, watching old family videotapes. Hackman wrote, "I always thought I was protecting you by keeping my distance, wanting you to live without the shadow of my fame hanging over you. But now I wonder if I was just protecting myself." This letter was written on Elizabeth's 30th birthday, yet it had never left the drawer. Each letter felt like a fragment of Hackman's soul, revealing hidden parts of him that no one in the family had ever known. He wasn't just a famous actor or a Hollywood legend. He was also a solitary man, torn between the desire to protect his family and the fear of losing himself in the role of a father. But it wasn't just the letters. The deeper the Hackman family dug into the old drawers, the more pieces of this complex puzzle they uncovered. Mysterious financial agreements, unexplained money transfers, and most troubling of all, a list of secret beneficiaries. Gene Hackman appeared to have created a separate inheritance list, one that included no family members' names. Instead, millions of dollars had been transferred to strangers, a childhood friend in California, a retired assistant from the 1980s, and even a server at Hackman's favorite restaurant in Santa Fe. Why had Hackman chosen them, and why were his own family members excluded? No one could answer, but the shock and outrage flooded the room like crashing waves, drowning each family member in an emotional storm with no escape. It was that night that the first argument broke out. Betsy Arakawa, Hackman's second wife, sat quietly in the corner of the room. Throughout their years together, she had never truly understood the man she called her husband. The week-long disappearances, the rushed phone calls, the sudden trips. Now they all came together, forming a complete picture. Hackman had not only been distant from his children, but he had also built walls even between himself and his life partner. But the emotional earthquake didn't stop there. When the family lawyer revealed the list of secret accounts Hackman had left behind, the entire family was nearly paralyzed. A large portion of his estate, over $20 million, had been transferred to an anonymous charity just months before his death. The organization had no name, no public information, only a cold, cryptic acronym: the GH Legacy Fund. No one knew how this organization operated, where the money would go, or what Hackman's true intentions were, but one thing was certain: Gene Hackman chose to trust strangers over his own family. In the old house, tears fell onto the wooden table, soaking through the old letters. The Hackman family didn't just lose a father, a husband. They lost their final chance to understand, to reconcile, to hear the long overdue apologies. All that remains are tattered letters, faded memories, and a question that will forever go unanswered. Who was Gene Hackman, really? A failed father, or a lonely soul? Until his final breath, some families are born to shine under the spotlight, while others are born to carry the shadow of a legend, a shadow so large and heavy that even with millions in wealth, they never feel any different from being shackled. The Hackman family is a perfect example of that curse. Gene Hackman's name was not only a source of pride for Hollywood, but also a silent obsession for those who carried his bloodline: Christopher and Elizabeth, his two children. Christopher and Elizabeth, raised in the shadow of their father's fame, could never escape the label of being Gene Hackman's kids. Even as adults with their own lives, the name Hackman trailed them like an unshakable shadow. Their father's success didn't inspire them, but rather cast an invisible curse of comparison. Every achievement they made was measured against his Oscars and legendary roles, always falling short, always not enough, and out of reach. And when the secret doors to Hackman's fortune were opened after his death, along with Betsy Arakawa, that burden didn't ease. It became golden chains, shiny but tighter than ever. As the lawyers began reading the will, which spanned hundreds of pages, every word seemed to float in the silent air of the Santa Fe room. The estate, valued at over $80 million, was clearly outlined. Real estate, stocks across California and New Mexico, art collections, vintage cars, and secret investments the family had never known about. But alongside these assets, Hackman left behind a series of strict and daunting inheritance conditions. No family member was allowed to use the name Gene Hackman to write memoirs, make documentaries, or sell personal stories. Publicly disputing the estate in the press was forbidden. Most notably, there was a secret fund, the Untouched Fund, established in the 1990s and kept hidden for over 30 years. No one, not even his wife Betsy, knew its contents. The only clear condition: tampering with this fund would immediately forfeit their right to inherit the rest of the estate. It was a forbidden territory, a sacred space Hackman reserved for himself, symbolizing absolute control even in death. Ironically, during their lives, Hackman and Betsy Arakawa embodied the image of a peaceful marriage. The couple lived in a self-designed wooden house on a 12-acre plot in the Santa Fe Mountains, far from Hollywood scandals. Their longtime friends, Daniel and Barbara Lenahan, still recall the quiet afternoons with Hackman painting, Betsy quietly brewing tea, and both of them contentedly smiling in the vastness of nature, which they called their ideal life. But beneath that peaceful exterior, Hackman never stopped controlling. Betsy herself once told a close friend, "Gene is the perfect husband as long as I don't touch what he calls his personal legacy." That personal legacy wasn't just his film career, it was his control over his own story. No one was allowed to rewrite the history of Gene Hackman, not even his wife or children. When the will was revealed, Christopher almost laughed. He had won. Even in death, Hackman still controlled everything, even their thoughts. Elizabeth, the youngest daughter, the one who always hid behind unfinished paintings, had hoped her father would leave her some freedom. But the cold will crushed that final hope. Not a single line mentioned emotions or personal messages from Hackman, only terms, rules, and threats to revoke inheritance rights. The vast fortune felt like a burden, shackling them, pulling them deep into an ocean of expectations where Hackman sat coldly, watching each of his children struggle. Amid all the arguments, rumors about the Untouched Fund began to circulate through Hollywood's inheritance circles. Some speculated that Hackman had secretly moved money into unofficial investments or even set up an anonymous charity under a different name. No one knew for sure, not even Hackman's lawyer, who admitted, "I don't know what he hid in there either." Betsy had tried asking her husband several times, but each time Hackman would respond, "There are things you shouldn't know and our children shouldn't know either." Now, with both of them gone, those hidden things had become an obsession, gnawing at every family member. No one knew whether they should protect that legacy or uncover the secrets Hackman had left behind. Amid the tears and the arguments tearing apart the living room in Santa Fe, a bitter truth emerged. The greatest legacy Hackman left behind was not wealth or fame, but a family fractured beneath the colossal shadow of a legend no one dared to confront. If his roles on screen were just the tip of the iceberg named Gene Hackman, then the drafts, notes, and secret documents discovered after his death were the deep, cold, dark layers submerged in the sea of memories. The upstairs office of Hackman's house, a place no one was allowed to enter for many years, not even Betsy, was finally opened. Behind the oak door lay a world unknown to anyone. Unfinished film scripts, covered in dust from the passage of time. Personal journals with handwriting that was sometimes firm, sometimes trembling, and mysterious financial notes hinting at shady connections to the ghost of old Hollywood's mafia. The unacknowledged scripts were, in fact, the film of Hackman's life. Though a legendary actor, few knew that Hackman had always longed to be a director, not for commercial films, but for a movie about his own life. Among the materials found were at least 3 unfinished scripts, and the final script left Hackman's family speechless. His last confession began with the words, "If there is an afterlife, I want to be born without anyone knowing who I am." This script, according to Hackman's notes, was a thinly veiled autobiography detailing every shadowy corner of his journey, from a poor Marine to an Oscar-winning star, while not shying away from the cracks in his first marriage, the tears of his children, and the secret deals made to keep the Hackman name at the top. Handwritten notes in the margins revealed Hackman seemingly conversing with himself. Fame sometimes means selling your soul. How many people did I betray to keep the name Gene Hackman? That script was never sent anywhere. It sank along with dozens of unfinished dreams Hackman never had the courage to turn into reality. In addition to the scripts, the family discovered 4 personal journals spanning from 1995 to 2022. The early pages were filled with sweet memories of Betsy Arakawa, spontaneous trips to Japan, France, and Italy, where Hackman wrote that it was only when he left the United States that he truly felt normal, not Gene Hackman. But as time went on, the writing grew distorted and erratic, with many pages stained with ink, possibly from Hackman's tears or his trembling fingers during the loneliest nights. Hackman loved his children in his own way, but that love was as cold and harsh as the stage lights. He left them everything, except for a gentle hug, a sincere compliment, or a moment where he placed himself on the same level as his children. And when Hackman closed his eyes for the last time, the family understood that the legacy he left behind was heavier than a mountain of gold, for it carried with it expectations, untouchable legacies, and secrets no one dared to uncover. In the eyes of the world, Gene Hackman was an icon, but to his children, he was just a closed-off room, a father defined by movie schedules and contracts. They didn't remember him through fishing trips or cozy dinners, but through magazine interviews, those rare moments of seeing their father on the red carpet, close, yet so distant. Some nights, Christopher Hackman, the eldest son, stayed up late in front of the screen, rewinding and replaying his father's movies, searching for a real glimpse of him behind the roles. But the screen only reflected what Gene Hackman wanted the world to see, not what he truly felt. Hackman wasn't a bad father. He was simply a victim of the glory he had created. lost between being a Hollywood icon and a regular man. Just when everyone thought Hackman's legacy was limited to wealth and fame, one final secret emerged. Hackman had established an anonymous charity with an initial fund of $10 million, dedicating all his film royalties after his death to fund scholarships and build schools for underprivileged children across the United States. The foundation was named The Other Gene, a clever play on words, hinting at Hackman's true self. The poor boy who had been expelled from school, worked as a waiter, and once dreamed of having a pair of shoes to attend school. Hackman wrote in a letter left for his personal lawyer, "If I could live my life over, I would want to start from a place where no one knows I am Gene Hackman. I want to be a normal child with shoes that aren't torn and meals without worrying about tomorrow." In this way, Hackman redeemed the pain of his childhood and sent a final message to his children. "I hope you understand that I never forgot who I am, and I hope you will find yourselves without living under anyone else's shadow." The memories of Hackman are not just the photos on the wall, but the scale of what he left behind. The blurred scenes from family movie nights. The glory of a bygone era wrapped Hackman's life in a shimmering halo. But when the Hollywood lights faded, all that remained was the echo of the past, where an old man still wrote letters to his children, knowing they would never be sent. Gene Hackman is gone, but the story of golden drops, tears, and memories that money can't buy remains an unfinished film, waiting for someone else to continue telling. Gene Hackman has gone, leaving behind a mountain of money, but his family is left picking up the shattered pieces of trust, love, and missed opportunities for reconciliation, now reduced to dust. The Oscars statues can be polished, but the wounds in their hearts, nothing can heal. If you found Gene Hackman's story intriguing and moving, don't forget to like and share this video with your loved ones. Leave your thoughts in the comments below. What do you think about the legacy Hackman left behind for his family and the secrets yet to be revealed? If you haven't subscribed yet, hit the subscribe button and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any of the exciting videos to come. Thank you for watching, and see you in the next fascinating stories. Gene Hackman, one of the legends of Hollywood, left an indelible mark on the public through his incredible performances, but also sparked curiosity about the life and secrets hidden behind the spotlight. His career, filled with iconic roles, often led to questions about the man behind the fame, making him a subject of both admiration and intrigue. When he passed away, his immense wealth and prestigious awards were just the tip of the iceberg. Beneath the Oscar statues and legendary films lies a mysterious story of loneliness, missed relationships, and perplexing decisions he left behind for his family. His private life, filled with complexities and unanswered questions, revealed a side of Hackman that contrasted sharply with his public persona. Hackman's story is not just a journey of a star, but a lesson in concealment, loss, and untold truths. What do you think about the secrets Hackman left behind? Share your thoughts in the comments below. The investigators uncovered evidence that sent shivers down their spines. Old photographs, secret documents, and strange, unexplainable symbols surfaced during the search, hinting at a deeper mystery that had been carefully hidden for years. Among the most chilling finds was an old, dust-covered phone with unread messages and a crumpled calendar filled with cryptic notes. This only deepened suspicions that Hackman may have been involved in some underground network. Behind those photos lie untold stories, unknown figures, and encounters the public has never heard of. Each discovery only raises more questions about the mystery surrounding his life and death, making his legacy even more complex and enigmatic. This event seems to be more than just a simple investigation into an accident. Reports of strange visitors at night and workers disappearing during the mansion's construction have only fueled the public's curiosity, suggesting there may be far more to the story than anyone initially realized. The growing web of mysteries surrounding Hackman's life and the estate only deepens the intrigue. How could these people vanish without anyone noticing? Could they be connected to the underground tunnel? Are these disappearances the key to unlocking the hidden truths? The FBI has kept information under wraps, fueling rumors about an underground network, buried treasures, or even a grand conspiracy tied to Hackman's life. Each unanswered question only deepens the mystery and draws people in, eager to uncover what lies beneath the surface of his legacy. This immense fortune, rather than becoming a cherished family inheritance, had instead crumbled under the weight of one man's obsession with control. As the Hackman family stood before the aging estate, frozen in time, they understood they had never truly been part of his world. A legendary figure, shrouded in solitude, clinging to his wealth as if it were an extension of himself, only to take those secrets with him to the grave. His legacy remained an unsolvable enigma, even to those who once stood closest to him. Leave number 1 if this story moves you. Despite the Hackman family enlisting top financial experts and private investigators to uncover his hidden fortune, every trail led to a dead end. No matter how much ground they gained, it was as if Hackman had outmaneuvered them by a decade. When the family's attorney finally unveiled the official estate report, it barely scratched the surface, listing only the Santa Fe mansion, a vintage car, and a handful of bank accounts. But the real wealth remained buried in the shadows of the financial world, known only to Hackman himself. And now, with his passing, those secrets were lost forever. As the investigation deepened, the enigmatic clues only ignited more conspiracy theories. Among them were peculiar vials of medicine, some empty, others untouched, raising suspicions among experts. Had Hackman been testing an experimental drug, or was he entangled in a secretive program? The unanswered questions only added to the mystery surrounding his final days. The notes and fingerprints found on the documents only deepened the mystery, adding new layers of intrigue to the case. Investigators have yet to piece everything together, but each discovery hints at a much larger secret, one that may have remained hidden beneath the surface for decades, waiting to be unearthed. As whispers about Gene Hackman's health rippled through Hollywood, the investigation began unraveling the last pieces of his enigmatic life. Some speculated that he had drafted a secret will years ago, discreetly dispersing his fortune across multiple accounts to prevent any legal disputes. Others believed he had funneled much of his wealth into an anonymous charity, a silent attempt to atone for the family he left behind. The more Hackman withdrew from the public eye, the more he became the center of wild conspiracy theories and fabricated tales. Yet, in the quiet solitude of his modest Santa Fe home, he spent his final days in silence, leaving behind not just a legendary career, but a legacy shrouded in mystery. What are your thoughts on the unanswered questions surrounding Hackman's life? Share them in the comments. Even in death, the only way Hackman could truly close his story was by vanishing from it. He crafted his own ending, slipping away in a manner no one anticipated. News of his passing broke on a somber morning just before dawn, silent, unannounced, and elusive, mirroring the reclusive life he had lived for the past 2 decades. When the news surfaced in a local newspaper, it sent shockwaves beyond Hollywood, reaching even Hackman's own family. Suddenly, long-buried secrets began to surface, as if the locked doors of his past had been forced open after years of being tightly sealed. Hackman's family had never truly grasped the full scope of his wealth. While the world saw a Hollywood legend, a 2-time Oscar winner gracing the most prestigious red carpets, few ever doubted that he had amassed a staggering fortune. Yet, the true extent of it remained a mystery, even to those closest to him. Yet the mystery of his fortune remained unsolved. When a handwritten will from 2001 surfaced and was officially notarized, the Hackman family believed they finally had closure. The estate listed was straightforward: the Santa Fe home, a California bank account, and the vintage Hudson Hornet he had cherished since his youth. Altogether, it amounted to roughly $5 million, a surprisingly modest sum for a man of his stature. But as they delved deeper, buried documents hinted at a far more complex and hidden financial truth. Gene Hackman was not just a legendary actor. He was a master at concealing his fortune. After securing his second Oscar in the 1990s, he meticulously crafted a web of financial secrecy, channeling his wealth into stocks, real estate, anonymous investment funds, and discreet offshore transfers. While Hollywood saw an acclaimed performer behind the scenes, Hackman was orchestrating a financial empire hidden in plain sight. These hidden transactions were carefully designed to avoid any direct connection to Hackman. Yet when investigators traced the intricate web of deals, every dollar eventually pointed back to a single account he had quietly established in 1993. After piecing together the scattered clues, the true scope of his fortune came into focus, an estimated worth exceeding $80 million. The revelation stunned even those who had known him best, exposing a secret empire no one had suspected. However, what truly stunned Hackman's family wasn't the sheer size of his fortune, but the elaborate lengths he went to conceal it. He operated under aliases, funneled money through trust accounts in Switzerland, the Cayman Islands, and Singapore, ensuring his wealth remained beyond reach. The biggest question lingered: why had he hidden it from his own family? Was it a matter of deep-seated mistrust, or did his secrecy mask something far more unsettling? A theory took hold within the Hackman family. He had lived both emotionally and financially distant, as if guarding his fortune meant protecting himself from the chaos of disputes. Fearing that exposing his wealth would invite endless conflicts, He constructed financial barriers so impenetrable that even his own children were left on the outside, unable to reach what he had spent a lifetime securing. On quiet evenings, Gene Hackman would sit alone in his living room, his gaze locked on old family tapes, lost in memories. On his youngest daughter, Elizabeth's 30th birthday, he wrote her a heartfelt letter, but it never left the drawer. In it, he confessed that he had spent his life believing distance was a form of protection, hoping she could grow up free from the weight of his fame. Yet, in trying to shield her, he had only built a wall neither of them could cross. But now he questioned whether he had truly been protecting his family or merely shielding himself from them. Each letter he wrote was a fragment of his soul, exposing parts of himself his loved ones had never seen. Gene Hackman was more than a Hollywood icon. He was a solitary man, caught between his instinct to protect and his fear of losing himself in the role of a father. The deeper the Hackman family dug through old drawers, the more unsettling pieces of the puzzle emerged. Hidden financial transactions, unexplained transfers, and most shockingly, a list of beneficiaries that defied all logic. Hackman had secretly arranged an inheritance, but not a single member of his family was on it. No one had an answer, but the room erupted in shock and outrage as the Hackman family confronted the truth. An emotional storm followed, with Christopher, the eldest son, the first to break. His anger spilled out, condemning his father for living a life of deception, always playing a role, even within his own family. Yet, instead of passing his fortune to them, Hackman had funneled millions to strangers. A childhood friend in California, a retired assistant from the 80s, even a server at his favorite restaurant. Why had he chosen them? And why had his own family been cast aside? With a shattered heart, Elizabeth clutched the letters to her chest, as if they were the last fragments of the father she had once idolized. The cherished memories of Hackman sitting by the window on Sunday mornings, lost in his newspaper, were now tainted by a painful truth. In the corner of the room, Betsy Arakawa, his second wife, sat in silence. After all their years together, she realized she had never truly known the man she had called her husband. His sudden disappearances, his unannounced trips, everything now made sense, fitting together into the portrait of a man who had lived in isolation. But the emotional shock didn't end there. The family lawyer unveiled another secret, hidden accounts revealing that Hackman had quietly funneled over $20 million into an anonymous charity called the GH Legacy Fund. Its purpose remained a mystery, but one thing was clear. In the end, Hackman had placed his trust in strangers rather than his own family. As the lawyers read the will, each word hung in the air, heavy with unspoken tension. Hackman's estate was valued at over $80 million. Stocks, prime real estate in California and New Mexico, a prized art collection, and a fleet of vintage cars. Yet, buried within the legal jargon were strict inheritance conditions. No family member was permitted to profit from his legacy. No memoirs, no documentaries, no selling of his story. Even in death, Hackman controlled the narrative, ensuring that his name would never be exploited, even by those closest to him. No one was allowed to challenge the estate publicly or speak to the media about it. Buried within the will was a secret fund Hackman called the Pristine Fund, untouchable by his family. Anyone who attempted to access it would immediately lose their inheritance. This was the final proof that Hackman had orchestrated his life with unwavering control, even beyond the grave. From his legendary film career to his own legacy, every detail remained under his command, just as he had always intended. Hackman and Betsy Arakawa lived a quiet life far from Hollywood, but behind those peaceful walls was a man who orchestrated everything. Betsy once admitted, "Gene was the perfect husband, as long as I never touched what he called his personal legacy." That legacy wasn't just his film career. It was his absolute control over his own story, ensuring that even in death, no one could rewrite it but him. Christopher, the eldest son, felt the weight of Hackman's presence in every aspect of his life. When the will was finally read, he let out a hollow laugh. "He won even in death," he muttered. "He still controls everything, right down to our thoughts." Elizabeth, the youngest daughter, had always clung to the hope that her father would leave her something more than just wealth, perhaps a final gesture of understanding, but those hopes were shattered by the cold, rigid terms of his will. Not a single line carried warmth or a personal message, only conditions, ultimatums, and the looming threat of disinheritance. What should have been a legacy became a weight, pulling the family into a spiral of disappointment and unanswered questions. Even in death, Hackman's presence loomed over his family like a shadow. As his children wrestled with disputes and swirling rumors about the untouched fund, he seemed to watch from afar, silent, calculated, unmoved. Speculation ran wild about off-the-books investments and the mysterious charity, ensnaring the Hackman family in an endless cycle of obsession, chasing answers he had ensured they would never find. When both Hackman and Betsy passed, the very secrets he had fought to keep hidden became an unbearable weight on his family. Torn between preserving his legacy or exposing the truths he left behind, they found themselves trapped in a battle with no clear answer. In the end, the harshest reality surfaced. Hackman's greatest legacy wasn't his wealth or his fame, but a fractured family, forever living in the shadow of a Hollywood giant. In the long-sealed study, the family uncovered a trove of unfinished scripts and Hackman's personal journals. Within the worn pages lay untold stories, fragments of a life he had spent decades concealing, from his early days as a Marine to the relentless journey that led him to Oscar-winning fame. Each entry was a glimpse into the man behind the legend, revealing pieces of himself he had never shared with the world. One of Hackman's unfinished scripts, never sent or shared, opened with a haunting line. "If there is an afterlife, I want to be born without anyone knowing who I am." It was more than just a story. It was a veiled autobiography, peeling back the layers of a life he had kept in the shadows. Through his handwritten notes, some bold, others trembling, he revealed the deepest conflict within him. A man caught between his relentless pursuit of success and the quiet betrayal he felt toward himself. His $4 million mansion, once a symbol of success and prestige, had now become the epicenter of a chilling investigation. In a shocking turn, the FBI raided the estate, uncovering a hidden underground tunnel beneath the property. Gene Hackman, one of Hollywood's most revered stars, celebrated for his legendary roles and enigmatic life, was now at the heart of an unprecedented mystery, one that threatened to rewrite everything the world thought it knew about him. The secrets buried beneath this mansion don't just hide Hackman's past. They unravel a trail of mysteries that leave investigators questioning everything. Was the death of Hackman and his wife truly just a tragic accident? Or does a far more sinister conspiracy lie beneath the surface, waiting to be exposed? Buried within the maze of financial documents, investigators uncovered something even more alarming. A secret investment fund, worth millions, funneled into private accounts since the late 90s. But it was one name in the transaction records that sent shockwaves through the case. Frankie the Fox Catalano, a notorious Hollywood mafia boss. The discovery raised a chilling question. Was Hackman's fortune built on more than just blockbuster films? And had he been entangled in something far more dangerous than anyone ever suspected? Hackman, a man known for his disciplined image, had secretly maintained ties with a notorious gangster for decades. His past, riddled with unexplained debts and covert dealings, was now an inseparable part of the legacy he left behind. These long-buried connections surfaced like ghosts from the shadows, raising far more questions than answers. What had Hackman truly been involved in? And how deep did the darkness surrounding his life really go? The revelations cast an unsettling shadow over the man the world once celebrated as a Hollywood legend. Gene Hackman left behind a fortune and a legacy of Oscar-winning performances. But what his family uncovered were the remnants of broken trust, lost love, and missed chances for reconciliation. His memory wasn't just captured in framed photos on the walls, but in the empty spaces where once vibrant images of family night's glory had faded. The golden halo of Hollywood had long since dimmed, leaving behind only the echoes of a man who, in his final years, continued writing letters to his children, letters he knew would never be read. Gene Hackman's life is more than the tale of a Hollywood icon. It's a reflection on solitude, buried secrets, and choices that left even his own family searching for answers. Though he is gone, his legacy endures, tangled with mysteries that refuse to fade from the minds of both the public and those who knew him best. Hackman lived a life of complexity, and the unanswered questions he left behind ensure that his story will never be fully unraveled. His journey forces us to reconsider fame, control, and the mysteries we may never truly understand. What are your thoughts on Hackman's life and legacy? Share your opinions in the comments.